Coach Matt Doherty on Dose of Leadership. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I was excited to talk to you. I always like talking with coaches, particularly at the level that you've coached at, and you've been a player and a coach. And so this is going to be a fun conversation. And great job on the book, by the way.
Thank you.
Finished it last night. So, wow, so many things to talk about. And we were talking about in the pre-recording. And I'll just dive in and say this, that I was really amazed to read your book, that your leadership journey really didn't intentionally start, as you admit, until you lost your job, what you considered your dream job at UNC. That's amazing to me, because you had so many years as a player surrounded by professional coaches, so many great examples and mentors, but yet your leadership journey didn't really start till after that kind of fall, right?
Yeah, I think there's no finish line in leadership.
You're right.
If you think you've arrived, it's like playing golf. If you think you've arrived, you're going to hit it out of bounds. and I think that you have to constantly learn. It constantly evolves. My company is called the Doherty Coaching Practice, and the motto is learn and grow. And I think Roy Williams often would say that you could be on the right track, but if you're standing still, you're going to get run over. And especially nowadays, because it's constantly evolving, whether it's due to new generations, new technology, new strategies on the court, in the boardroom. It is constantly evolving. I'm a leader. You've got to continually work at it. I did have great role models. I had Bob McKillop as a high school coach, who's the coach at Davidson College. I had my other high school coach, Dick Zeitler. I had Dean Smith, who is one of the best.
Yeah.
And then I had Bob McKillop as a coach. I was an assistant for Bob at Davidson, and I was an assistant for Roy Williams. And I think the one thing I talk about in the book, the keys to leadership, and I think there's 6 of them, and I talk about Stevitt.
Mm-hmm.
I make a story up. It's the only way I can remember things, and hopefully the audience can remember. Stevitt is a guy I recruited, and his name is spelled S-T-E-V-I-T. And the acronym stands for self. You got to know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Team. You got to know your team. The E is for environment. You got to know your surroundings. V for vision. You have to know where you're going and sell it to your team. Then I is the industry. You've got to know your industry and stay current to put your team in position to be successful. And then T is mind for the truth. And I think that leaders do a bad thing of 1 and 6. They don't really know themselves.
Yeah.
Not very self-aware. And that gets them in trouble. And as a result, part of that is hand in hand is they don't mind for the truth.
Yeah.
And don't create a safe environment for somebody to tell them the truth. And I say that you need to have somebody on your staff that their job is to be the truth teller, and it should actually be on their business card.
Yeah.
Truth teller. So your role as a truth teller, Rich, I'll allow you to come into my office, to me anytime, in a respectful way, tell me your thoughts and that you disagree with something that I did and the potential ramifications of that. And then I have to accept that. Yeah. I don't have to agree, but I got to listen.
Respect. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Respect it, digest it, and then I decide to act. But at least now that blind spot gets closed. And I'm like, oh gosh, he told me it was there. So because I say you're going to either manage the truth or the truth's going to manage you.
Yeah, for sure.
The truth's going to surface sooner or later.
Mm-hmm. You can't hide forever. You said so many great things there, and something that I definitely resonates with me deeply. In aviation, we call it, one of the best things I've heard in the briefing, and I incorporate this in my briefings when I'm flying with somebody new, particularly that hasn't flown with before. And I say, that's not your right to challenge me. It's your obligation, right? In a respectful manner. Don't let me land with the gear up. Don't let me crash in the mountains. Don't let me run out of gas. And you're right. So many times
I'm writing that down. Obligation to.
It's not your right to challenge me. It's your obligation, right? You're obligated to respectfully challenge me, right? And
Yep.
we don't have to agree, like you said. I mean, but gosh, what a gift to have an environment, to your point. If I can walk into your office and I say, Coach, man, I think you're really gooning this up here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you and I can hash it out behind the scenes, and because you want that, right? You want those people to be able to tell you you're about to do something stupid. And I think a lot of times, right?
Yeah. It's hard. And often we're more inclined to hear it from somebody else than from our family, for example, or our staff. And then there's an inherent fear in our staff to tell us the truth, because they then worry about, he might fire me, he might not promote me. All the things about bullying. And then if you do that to that leader on your staff, it's going to spread to the rest of the staff. So they are not going to speak up. So now all you have is a group of yes men or women. And why'd you hire them?
Right. Yeah. And you're going to be the last to know anything bad's about to happen, right? And sometimes it's too late once you find out, right?
Amen. That's the whole point.
One thing, as I was reading this book, I was thinking about.
By the way, the name, if you don't mind, the name, telling the audience the name of the book.
Rebound, From Pain to Passion. Yeah, great.
Yep, and you can get it at Amazon, and it's available. You can pre-order now, or you can get it on the ebook version this week.
Yeah, and what I really appreciated about it was how you did. I mean, the book was really a inside basketball, I guess, but an inside look at the what it's like to not only be a player at that level, at the collegiate level, kind of the disappointment of not seeing your NBA dreams kind of fade away. Then you get into coaching in less than 10 years from when you stop, your NBA dreams are dashed. Now you're coaching at the highest level, at your alma mater. And just the stress, and I was trying to empathize with the stress and kind of the competitiveness and how quickly that's what really was painful to read, was how quickly it went away. But in hindsight, and I hope you look at it this way, it was probably, from a transformational perspective, from a personal leadership development perspective, it was probably one of the better things that happened to you, right? I know that's easy for me to say now, and I know it's probably still painful to kind of, like you said in the book, it's painful to, when March comes around, to watch, because it's in your blood, right? That's what you know. But in a lot of aspects, it was a blessing, right? I mean, do you look at it that way?
I do at times. And at times, the thing in the book, I talk about the bridge over the Bitter River.
Yeah.
And, driving over this bridge, there's no guardrails, there's an expensive toll, and you're trying to stay on this bridge and not fall into the Bitter River. But it's so easy to fall into that Bitter River. There's so many triggers, Rich.
Yeah.
Whether it be just watching a North Carolina game, or seeing the salary that Coach Williams is making, or, the Hall of Fame awards, or so you have to really slow down, keep two hands on the wheel, and probably, as you alluded to, and I love analogies, and, I need to have good co-pilots. I need to have some co-pilots that keep me from veering into the river and not crashing. And I think part of it is your faith. I mean, my faith grew as a result. Because what is the first thing a person does when they're falling from the mountain or getting ready to crash into the river, is say, "Oh God, please help me."
Yeah.
They pray. And so I think it brought me closer to God. I think it brought me closer to my family. But it's still emotionally very difficult.
Yeah.
And part of the reason I wrote the book was it was therapeutic for me to get it out there and to help others. And I don't know what I would have ended up if I stayed at North Carolina. Would I've ended up as divorced, bad dad, huge ego, who knows? I don't know. But I know this now. I got humbled. And I think that here I was, a national coach of the year at my alma mater. And maybe God came down and slapped me in the back of the head and said, too much, too fast, settle down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you never know, but you got to have faith and, try to put one foot in front of the other and grow from it. And that's the only thing that I knew to do, because as a coach, as a player, when you deal with failure, you watch the film and try to get better.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciated, and just so you know, as a reader, that's what you just said there articulated kind of what I was feeling, or what I appreciated most about the book was that struggle with that draw, how easy it is to go back into that bitter river. And it's something that you're still, because you're a human being, you have an ego. I get it. I could see myself doing that same thing. And I appreciate how that path from when you lost that or got humbled or got your initial slap, that it wasn't an immediate process. It took a long time, and something that like you just admitted, you're still struggling with today. I appreciate that you included that in the book and said that here, because it's true. Right. And, but I think from an outside observer looking in, knowing that pain's there and having similar things, certainly not at the level that you've experienced it, at that, but I've had similar things happen to me, and it's easy to get triggered, right? Because your ego can pull you back into that bitter river easy. It's so easy. And initially it feels so good to be in that bitter river, right? The water's warm, right? Hey, this ain't so bad. It feels pretty good.
It's whew. It is easy.
It's easy.
It does feel good. And the people around you sometimes want to show you support, and they'll say, yeah, man, you got screwed.
Yeah.
That was your team that won the national championship. They didn't treat you right. And it's so easy to then steer off into the river. And that's when you really got to slow down and coach your co-pilot.
Yeah.
Hey, that's not good for me. That's not healthy for me. I don't want to hear that. That's not good. If we want to stay on this bridge and get safely across this river, I need more things, positive things. And I talk about core values: respect, trust, commitment, and positivity. And RTCP is the core values of me and any organization that I'm around. And the other thing is, for 2021, I felt there was so much negativity in the world that no negatives in 2021 is my number one goal or resolution. So you really got to, in a respectful manner, say, hey, I appreciate your support, but I'd rather not talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the good things. Let's talk about what we're grateful for. And, it's because those triggers are real. And I've got to avoid them, and I need help.
I love that. I love your honesty about that. You're so right. And I like how you said, to me, what I heard in that statement, you didn't say the word gratitude explicitly, but that's what you're talking about, right? So to me, to avoid those triggers, it's starting from a place of gratitude, right? About the positive things. Hey, look what I got here, right?
Yeah. It's comparison games are the work of the devil.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And in our world now with social media, it's so easy to compare someone's highlight film to our everyday. And you see somebody on a boat in the mountains drinking wine, on a yacht, And I'm like, man, you know, I mean, I'm just
What am I
living
doing wrong?
in a
Yeah.
small house and I'm driving a used car, you know, and uh, and so that's boom. That you've got to put your blinders on and not compare yourself and run your own race. And you know, that is a challenge because we're human beings.
Yeah. And I think that I was thinking too, what's got to be really challenging at your level with all that circle that you're in is such I mean, think about, you're talking about percentages, the people that get to coach at the level that you did is so minute, right? On the grand scheme of things, I mean, it's infinitesimal to do what you did. And so to me, from an outsider looking in, is like, at least you had that, right? I mean, you got to coach at that level that so few people in the history of humankind ever get to experience, right?
Yeah.
So to me, that if I was in your shoes, I'm just trying to put myself in your shoes. I would always try to remind myself of that, maybe. And plus, you have such a great foundation from your parents to your family. So many things to be thankful for, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to put myself in your position and things that I would do.
Yeah, it's you have to do that. John Gordon, who is a writer I respect a great deal and has become a friend, you know, talks about a daily gratitude walk. And you know, he openly talks about suffering from depression and losing his job, having two kids. And the best way to get out of it is physically and mentally, you know, walk, exercise, and have a list of things you're grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
And take your own coaching. Like I do a thought of the day, I do a blog, I do a thought of the day on Twitter, I do a blog, and I really do it for myself.
Sure.
A friend of mine says you preach the most what you need the most. And I need that for me to have these reminders that, you know, I'm in a good place. I have a good life. You know, and so I need that to kind of develop these habits and get my mind right so I don't drive off into that bitter river.
Yeah. You know, and I think as men too, I think we struggle with this. And this, what it reminds me of, and I've talked about this a little bit on my show before, but like, as I told you before, I was an aviator in the Marine Corps, and everything was about aviation to me. And it's about my identity was as that professional aviator. I wanted you to know that I was an aviator for the Marine Corps. I wanted you to know I was a Marine Corps officer. I wanted you to know that I was a pilot, right? And so that was my identity. And it's similar to you. Basketball was your whole life, right? That was your identity, and your identity was that coach. And when what's taken away from you, like I said, when I lost my job, when I got furloughed and I had to reinvent myself, you lost your job, your dream job at your alma mater. Your identity was bruised, right? And that's what made it so painful. And for me, it was then realizing that my identity isn't that, right? That's the role that I was playing. My role at that time was a pilot, but I'm also had a role as a father, right? But that's not my identity. Does that make sense? And it seems like
100%.
that's the process that you went through and why it was so painful.
Oh, wait, listen now, Rich, I'm still going through it.
Yeah, me too. I'm with you.
I like to be called coach. You asked me, you asked me before the show, should I call you Matt or Coach? I said, well, I like to be called Coach.
Yeah.
Because that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
My identity as a basketball player makes me feel good. My identity as a coach makes me feel good. It gives me fulfillment, gives me some self-worth. And that's why I continue to like to do broadcast games and do sports on the radio. And that was taken away. And I was kind of free falling. And, you know, I'm reinventing myself as a coach, but a coach of people, a coach of business leaders.
Mm-hmm.
I run a Vistage practice. It's the oldest and largest executive coaching firm in the world.
Yep.
I'm a chair, Vista's chair. So now I get to coach people. So that's still fulfilling work because, I think in an ideal world, we find something we're passionate about that can pull us out of bed, as opposed to a job that we have to show up for where we need to get pushed out of bed. And, I was lucky for most of my adult life to be pulled out of bed as a coach.
Right.
I never worked so hard in my life. I worked on Wall Street for 4 years and I hated it. I hit the snooze button 3 times in the morning. And then when I was coaching, I worked from 8 in the morning till midnight quite often. And I loved every minute of it for the most part. And then when I lost my job, it was, who am I? What is my identity?
I know.
What is fulfilling work? Nothing may ever be as fulfilling as, for me, as coaching basketball from an occupational standpoint. But there's only probably 50 good jobs in college basketball, and I'm not going to get any of those right now. And so I felt like I had to focus. I didn't want to just hang on and then have some collateral damage, namely my family.
Yeah.
So everything, life's a balance, and you deal with some anxiety, you pray, and you try to find, you have some fulfillment, some financial reward where you can provide for your family. And, life is, God didn't promise us a smooth path.
No.
Matter of fact, he promised us some hardship to keep us close to him.
That's right. And I think that, and that resonates with me so much, just because, like I said, I looked at aviation and flying plane because it is an integral part. It still is. I mean, I still enjoy it. It's something it's hard for me to describe to people. I'm drawn to it. It's like putting on, picking up that old baseball glove that melds to your hand. You know what I mean? Feels like it, or a comfortable pair of blue jeans that just feel.
It's where you come alive. It's where you come alive.
Yeah.
It's where, and I told you before the show, a friend of mine's a pilot, and he flew my wife and I and his wife to the beach for lunch yesterday, which is about an hour and 15-minute flight, normally about a 4-hour drive.
Right.
I could, I get it. Like I can relate that, like, to be up there and in control, but yet there's a real fear too, like something could go wrong and you've got to manage that. And, I get it. And when I talk to pilots, I get it. And so, I can relate, and 100%, just because my job was, millions of people watched it and cared about it, doesn't make it any less significant than your job.
No, but I mean, it's intoxicating, right? I mean, it's the same. I can imagine being at that level. I mean, you've got a strong ego. I have a strong ego. I think as men, we're ego driven. I think a lot of times, we have these kind of cultural pressures about what success looks like or what it is. I mean, it's validating. It feeds the ego, right?
Yep.
But I think the challenge is, from the self-worth piece, and this is where the challenge comes in, when it's taken away from you. One of the biggest lies is if we equate our self-worth equals what we accomplish and what other people think of us, which is pretty much what all of us fall victim to, right? Yeah. So then so the question becomes, how do you fill that self-worth equation without those things? And that's, to me, that's the challenge that I still struggle with, right? And so it's finding purpose outside of those things that give you that passion, right? That and it's hard. It really is hard. But I think that that's what I appreciate about the book Rebound, is that you show that in an authentic way. And then I love how you kind of, you tell that story. The bulk of the book is telling that story. And then you end the book with basically all your leadership lessons. It's almost like you can pull it off the shelf and open it up and kind of give a snapshot of what your leadership beliefs are at this moment.
That was the goal. That I'm glad you took it that way. First of all, thank you for reading it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you took it that way because that was my goal. I'm pretty pragmatic, practical. I wanted somebody to understand the background, read the lessons, have the lessons in an orderly manner so they could use it as a reference and say, okay, I'm getting ready to take a new job. How do I need to manage change?
Yeah.
How do I change the culture? What landmines do I need to be careful of? How do I hire somebody? How do I fire somebody? So I appreciate you taking the way that it was intended to be read.
I also appreciate too, one of my takeaways was your awareness, or you're coming into understanding the importance of emotional intelligence and how it really wasn't important to you until kind of after the splat moment. I thought that was great. You know, how emotional intelligence is the key, right? To all of
Oh man, that was my biggest undoing as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where, I modeled the leaders before me, but I valued the science of coaching more than the art of coaching.
Interesting. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I valued the X's and the O's and the strategy and the practice organization more than probably the feelings of the players, the individual feelings, the collective feelings. Yeah, but I was more like, because the way I was as a player growing up, and that's why I put the background in about the park and toughness and, the Myers-Briggs, you're
an ENTJ, and that's like
ENTJ, and only 2% of the population are ENTJs. So I don't think like the 98% of the population.
Right.
And so when I read that, after I got let go and I was working with an executive coach, I was like, oh my God, now I get it. So my job then was to understand each individual, their biggest fears, their concerns, their motivators, their motivations, and then try to understand that in the overarching coaching of the team, and really lead by connecting with the heart.
Yeah.
And I think that's what great leaders do.
Absolutely.
And that's what Dean Smith did. And I didn't do a great job of it because I was the type of player that if you told me to do A, B, and C, I would do A, B, and C. I didn't need a pat on the back. I didn't need a lot of emotional, I just give me the job and I'll go do it. And, but only 2% of the population are like that.
Right. Right.
How stupid was I?
Yeah.
And then also managing an enterprise that included Dean Smith and Bill Guthridge, who are still in the building, and being emotionally intelligent towards them.
Yeah, that when I didn't realize that. That's a little kind of the inside scoop of the inside baseball, no pun intended, except inside look at that. I thought, oh my God, that would be so challenging. Here you got Dean Smith still in the building. You got the other coach still in the building, and you can see their loyalists, right? And like some of the people, like, they're like, oh, who's this new guy? And you got to get rid of them. And then they went and they worked for them, and they're still in this. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. That was my lack of emotional intelligence. I'm a pragmatic person. What you say, I take for face value. So when Coach Smith told me it was my program, run it how you see fit, that's what I did.
Yeah.
That's not what he meant deep down.
Right.
But he is always, I looked at him as somewhat of a, like a father figure, and you believed everything that came out of his mouth.
Yeah.
he would never lie to you, right? So that was my ignorance, my lack of emotional intelligence. Like I didn't get it. And on top of it, everything was happening so fast.
Yeah.
You know, I got the job in July. Most people get jobs in March or April. And so, you know, that's in the middle of the recruiting period. And I'm trying to move families and recruit. And so that, you know, that was not top of mind, but it should have been,
Yeah.
because ultimately it was led to my undoing.
Yeah. I'm curious about when you finally went back after, I'm trying to remember in the book, was it maybe 5 or 6 years and you finally sat down? Am I getting the time right? Then you finally went
About 6 years with
and
Coach Williams.
you went to, and you talked with Coach Williams. Tell me
Yeah.
about that. What was that? Or that was an
It was
important,
very emotional. I had lost a lot of sleep imagining the conversation with Coach Smith and Coach Williams. By the time we had a meeting set up, Coach Smith's health wasn't good, so he did not attend, which I regret. But it was hard. I mean,
what were you hoping to accomplish with that? I'm curious. So what
I think just that they got to understand how I felt.
yeah. Yeah.
And understand some of the things that I believe that maybe have went on that I didn't like. And then, you know, then it's out there. Anger turned inward leads to depression.
Yeah.
So I need to let that anger out in a respectful way and see. And not necessarily, you're probably not going to get the response you want, but at least it's out and it's on the table and the other person knows how you feel.
Yeah.
And when I left that meeting, first I probably cried for a minute straight, probably in 30 seconds, but it felt like 10 minutes. And I was going in saying, yeah, I'm an emotional guy. I was saying, you know, keep it together, stay strong, stay strong, stay strong. And as soon as I sat down, the word tried to come out of my mouth. I think snot was flying all over the place. and that was very telling, because Coach Williams and I were always very close when he was an assistant and I played, and then I worked for him for 7 years. And you know, I loved him like a brother and, you know, like a big brother. And he always gave me sage advice, and my career was benefited from my association with him. And so, you know, people ask, like, how's your relationship with Roy? And I said, well, figure it like this. All right. You get a divorce, and then then Coach Williams marries your ex-wife.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's never going to be, you know, where it was, but it's very good and it's very respectful. Matter of fact, he wrote a great endorsement.
Yeah, he did.
You know, and who knows, as time passes on, you know, it may even get better, but it's in a good place. And there's just so many things that went into
Yeah.
the casualty that was my losing my job.
Yeah. Well, I know you got a hard stop. I could sit there and talk to you for a long time. I want to be respectful of your time. I wish I could.
I appreciate it. We got about 5 more minutes.
Yeah, but I really do appreciate, and I can see it in talking with you. It emanated from the pages of the book Rebound. I think the currencies that are so needed in life and in leadership, and particularly after this crazy year of 2020 and going into 2021, is authenticity, transparency, and vulnerability. I think those are things that we suck at as human beings, particularly as men.
Yep.
I see a ton of authenticity, transparency, and vulnerability in this book and in this conversation with you. And I think that's what's needed. And I think you're on the right track with that. And I would highly recommend people
Thank you.
get Rebound for that exact purpose. And I appreciate, like you said, how you told us the story. And then at the end, you pretty much cap it up. This is what I believe as a leader today.
Well, thank you. I think a big thing for me, I never felt that I had, people write books that are more worthy of writing books than me. And, but I was doing corporate talks last year before COVID. And people asked, do you have a book? And I'm like, no, I don't have a book. And they're like, you should have a book. So one, it's like a calling card.
Yeah.
It's like a business card you leave behind. Two, it gives you credibility. Whether the book is good or not, you could say you're an author.
Right.
I just hope it's a good book.
Yeah.
And then it was therapeutic for me. But if it helps one person, and like you talk, like, okay, sometimes you think you're the only one.
Yeah.
And you're not.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about it, like misery does like company.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you're like, oh yeah, you went through that too. And you can relate. And by relating, you feel a peace that other people have gone through some tough things too.
Yeah.
And listen, this is internal scarring. I look at people that have lost limbs, and you were in the Marines, right?
Yep.
How many people do you know that lost their legs, that lost their lives?
Right.
You just lost a job. I just lost a job.
Right.
So to me, life is about putting things in perspective.
Absolutely.
So the gratitude. Look what we do have.
Right.
As opposed to what we don't have. And I say that to you and the reader, but I'm also saying it to myself, just to keep that, like, keep my heart lighter. Yeah. It's a challenge.
It is a challenge. It resonates with me, like you said, though, because this is the reason why I do the podcast, why I've been doing it for 8 years. It's therapeutic for me. It's an accountability tool for me to keep to help me be the best person, and father, citizen that I can be. And I understand how the book can do the same for you. No,
well, God, listen, if you believe in God, God had his hand in all this. And so I'm praying that God can work through me. And if I can help other people not only become better leaders, but become Christians. People say it's not when you were born and when you died on the tombstone, it's what you did in the dash.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I'm 58, and, let's say, I lived to 80, 22 years. I hope, the end of my dash is more impactful than the beginning of my dash.
Yeah, well, it's the obligation to make the place better than we found it. I think that's the thing we always got. That's really the only obligation all of us have, I think, is to leave this place better than we found it. And
100%.
Yeah. Rebound is the name of the book, From Pain to Passion. Check it out. Coach, it's been such an honor to meet you. And it's great that you're gracious for your time to come on the show. I hope we stay in touch. And
I'm sure we will, Rich.
I consider you a member of the Dose of Leadership tribe. Thanks for coming on the show, my friend.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time, Rich.
Sure.